So I accidentally went viral for studying a lot, specifically for 19 hours. The thing is, we all know that feeling when you start rereading sentences, when your head feels like a bowling ball, but your exam is coming soon and you're stressed because nothing is going in. Millions of views and thousands of comments later, I've been promoted from student to performative final boss. But the main question everyone had was, how do you even study for that long? The second question is, does she even have a life? So in this video, I'm going to share 5 non-basic personal study strategies that help me focus and study for long periods of time. I guarantee you've not heard most of these tips, especially the second and last one. And to answer your second question, no, I do not study 19 hours every single day. I would just need to delete my whole channel because that would mean all my study tips are not effective. I was just grinding the day before exams, not serving a life sentence. And let's go. So the first study tip is called the flip-flop strategy. I know it's a weird name. I picked it. This is a tip that no one uses but has been a complete game changer in allowing me to study for long periods of time. This is how it works. You cannot study the same subject the whole day. In fact, you cannot even study similar subjects the whole day and expect to maintain the same level of concentration the whole time. This is the problem with how most students study. Even if it's something simple, for example, I like to start my study sessions by doing flashcards or multiple choice questions. But if I continue flipping flashcards for the next hour, it becomes increasingly hard to concentrate because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. AKA using the same part of your brain over and over again. Before you know it, you reach for your phone and start scrolling. So flip-flopping between different subjects ensures that you're resting certain parts of your brain while activating others. That's how you stay focused for longer, besties. Say you start your morning with maths, okay? This is heavy analytical work. In the afternoon, you might want to switch to something completely different, like essay writing. If you continue doing maths or even switch to a similar subject like physics, you'll tire out much faster. So the next time you plan a long study session, make sure you use the flip-flop strategy to mix up the different types of subjects you're studying. Feel free to screenshot these examples, but after studying memorization-heavy subjects, follow it up with something application-based. Or you can study something straightforward after something creative like English essay writing. By the way, take the subjects I listed here with a grain of salt because one subject can fit into multiple categories. For example, in a previous video, I was giving memorization tips to a bestie studying English literature. She was struggling to remember quotes from different books and linking them to themes like modernism and feminism, so even a creative subject like English could be memorization heavy. If you need help, use this AI prompt, feel free to screenshot. If you have a Grammarly account, you can just type out your subjects, highlight them, then give it the same instructions. If you're finding this video useful so far, be sure to subscribe and like this video because it means a lot to me. But what if you only need to study one subject the whole day? The flip-flop strategy still applies. You just flip-flop between different types of tasks within that one subject. And so if I just wrote an essay, I'll just switch to something straightforward like doing flashcards for 30 minutes followed by memorizing definitions. So I just showed you how you can use AI to figure out the best order in which to study your subjects. But if you're stuck on an assignment, you can actually just select your essay title, then ask it to create a research plan, which honestly helps so much when you don't know how to start. This is all Grammarly's new free feature called AI Chat. The feature I use the most is actually called the AI Grader. If you upload your marking scheme, it actually gives you a predicted grade and points out where you can improve. It's not 100% accurate, but it's great for motivation and will give you great direction on how to improve. I want you to make full use of your Grammarly account, so I'll link the updated Google document listing all my favorite Grammarly features in the description box below. So the next tip is something I call the prioritization table. It's just something I figured out as someone studying an academically vigorous degree. I have about 30 lectures per unit in university, so I really have no choice but to learn how to prioritize. Here's the thing, you're studying wrong if you're spending the same amount of time on each chapter. Some chapters are straightforward, some require heavy memorization, and some are super confusing, and some are just dry and annoying. If you treat every lecture, topic, or chapter the same, you're just going to end up spending way too much time on concepts that don't need it. So here's how to make my prioritization table, and I want you to copy it. Open up Google Docs or Notion and make this table. After you finish a lecture or topic, note down what type of content it is. On the left are actual examples of what I filled in this column. Because I realize people always tell us to prioritize, so they'll tell us to note down if it's high, low, or medium priority. But I find that two topics can be high priority, but for completely different reasons. One might be memorization heavy, while the other might require a lot of practice questions to actually understand it. Then you fill in the priority level, and finally, note down when you want to study it. So here are my immunology notes. You can see that I noted down to study lecture 18 after lecture 20 and 21. And in the notes column, I wrote what the lectures are about and why I should study it in that order. Now, when I sit down to study, I don't have to guess. I know exactly which topics are worth spending more time on and which I can just breeze through. But here's the real power of this table. You can now plan your study sessions around the type of focus that topic demands. So for me, I'm a morning person, so that's when I'll tackle topics that have a lot of memorization in them. Then I save these straightforward or easier topics for the afternoon when my energy is lower. And if you're not sure when your peak focus is, I've actually made a whole video on this. In this video, I talked about the 4 or 5 sleep archetypes, and there's even a quiz you can take to find out when you're naturally most alert during the day. So if you haven't watched that, be sure to check it out. I'll link it here. Because once you know when you're most alert and you combine that with a system like my prioritization table, you can make sure that you always pair your hardest work with your highest energy. And that's when studying feels 10 times more efficient. So this next tip is what I like to call avoid falling into mental dead zones. We are really rolling with the weird names. Basically, you need to recognize when you start to struggle. This is a big one because we've all been there. You're sitting at your desk, you're reading the same sentence 3 times and nothing is going in. This is a mental dead zone. And here's the problem. Most students try to brute force their way through it. They think, if I just push harder, eventually it'll stick. But the reality is that's a terrible use of your energy. You're spending 20 minutes staring at a page and barely making any progress. So here's what you do. The moment you spot those early signs of slowdown, like rereading sentences, zoning out, or forgetting what you just typed, switch gears. Don't quit studying altogether, but switch to something lighter. That could be reviewing flashcards, summarizing a lecture, or even just organizing my notes. These are lower intensity tasks that don't require the same level of deep focus. And then after 15 or 30 minutes, or even after a quick nap, I just find that I can go back to the hard material with a fresh brain and just knock it out way faster. So the idea here is simple. Don't waste your energy on low quality work. Save the heavy lifting for when your brain is actually capable of doing it well, and use your low energy times for maintenance tasks that still move you forward. And that's how you avoid procrastination. An advertisement might play in the next few seconds, so if you would like to support this channel, please do not skip the ad. Thank you! Next, preload your study sessions. Okay, comment if you relate to this, but I can't be the only one that finds that my biggest killer for momentum for the day is that moment when I'm about to get out of bed and I just think to myself, what am I doing today? And then you start listing the 72 things you haven't started studying and decide it's just easier to stay in bed. You need to make it as easy as possible to start studying. Here's how preloading works. Before you end any study session, just take 2 minutes to set up the next one. Leave your notes open or open up the tabs to the exact page you're going to start with. Then get a sticky note or write down exactly what you'll be doing. For example, do lecture 15 or do questions 1 to 5. Leave your textbook open with the chapters circled. The idea is that you want to make the next step so obvious that you just can't miss it. And here's the part that no one talks about. When you give your brain a clear next step, it keeps processing the task in the background even when you're resting. So by the time you sit down again, bestie, even if it's the next day, you're already warmed up. It's so much easier to just dive straight back in. Next, I know this one sounds basic, but I promise it's just one of those things that it really just works. You need to find someone with the same work and study ethic as you. And no, it does not have to be your closest circle of friends. Your best friend might be the loveliest person ever, but if she doesn't like studying or he doesn't like studying, then that's okay. If you notice in many of my vlogs, my friends are there studying with me, including the one where I studied for 19 hours. There is no way I could have done that if Quiana wasn't there with me. We weren't actually studying the same things together. She was working on her own things, but just the fact that she was there kept me motivated to stay until midnight. If she hadn't been there, I can promise you that I'd be home by 5 p.m. Because let's be so for real, besties, studying for the most part is not fun. It's boring, it can be lonely, it's tiring, and it can be demotivating when you haven't understood your material yet. But if you have friends like Esther, she literally made me a batch of ginger honey to make sure I recovered fast when I was sick. So if you don't have one, you need to find a study buddy, someone who's as serious about their goals as you are. This doesn't have to be in person, by the way. I've had friends in other countries where we just FaceTime each other, leave the camera on, and study silently side by side. And honestly, that was enough to keep me going. In fact, go down to the comment section right now. Share your Instagram handle, which country you're from, what grade you're in, and what subjects you're studying. Maybe include some fun facts about yourself or personal interests. Please, no personal addresses, phone numbers, anything like that. I do not want to spend New Year's in jail. Hopefully you can connect with someone and both of you can achieve your academic goals for this year. Remember to like this video, subscribe, and be sure to turn on the notification bell and set it to all so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Remember to check out my 4 a.m. study vlog and my shorts too. And I'll see you all in my next video. Happy New Year's, bestie. Bye!